What's up, everybody? This is the evolution of Coconuts, Kiki, and Mons from the Sonic the Hedgehog games. Starting with their first appearance in 1992, and into their more modern evolutions, I'll detail their design changes over the years and get up close in the details of their animation and 3D models. I recently released a video showing off my custom Kiki figure for Jack's Pacific 4-inch line, and I took inspiration of a lot of details that I liked from all the forms. These are distinct badniks in the games. They're all very similar in spirit of their monkeyness, that I'm combining them all into this one video. I didn't own any Sega consoles growing up, so Sonic was always a special game that I only got to play at friends' homes. Sonic 2 was the first version I played, so Kiki was likely the first enemy that I ever encountered in the entire series. And that starts us off with... I think this is the cutest design of all the iterations. Here it almost looks like the mouth is organic. It has an adorable expression on its face, and the way it grips onto the tree almost makes it look like it's scared. I particularly like the bolt design on the sides of the head. This game design started the trend of monkey badniks throwing items from trees. Though not all evolutions throw from trees, almost all of them throw something. In Sonic 2, they're not much of a challenge, but can hurt Sonic if not dealt with carefully. Unlike the Genesis, the Game Gear was a portable console. It was a competitor to Nintendo's Game Boy, but it had some notable features that made it stand out against its competition. It had a 32-color backlit display and had better graphics. That being said, the Game Gear was not as powerful as the Genesis console, and the design of Coconuts takes a step back in detail for it. It's a bit tough to see the details, even on this blown-up scale. In fact, it's a little harder to see at this size. In the context of the game, it's more readable as a monkey-like bot climbing up and down the tree. The way the Kiki behaves in this game isn't much different than Sonic 2. Speaking of steps down in detail, we have another quality drop in the form of Sonic Jam. That being said, I feel that this iteration actually captures the style of the original Coconuts much more effectively than Sonic Blast. You can still make out the bolt on the side of its head, and more of the cute facial features are retained.
Game Cow! Lay those bloodshot eyes on these babies! It speaks!
Let's rock.
Begs to be touched! Wires you to the internet! And it plays more games than you idiots have brain cells! Any question? Then play! Idiot! Next question!
Gamecom, the ultimate portable gaming system.
If you're unaware of Sonic Jam on the Game.com, boy, do I have something to show you. This is a limited console. It's some of the worst Sonic gameplay I've seen, with a very low frame rate, poor audio, and graphics that don't do justice to the characters or the environment. This was also the hardest console and game for me to get working for making footage for this video. No exaggeration, I spent 5 hours to get these clips. It was a mess. I still enjoyed it more than Sonic Lost World though. I'm not a huge fan of the look of Coconuts in Pocket Adventure. The head feels a bit squished and the eyes look too tall because of it. The bolt design that I like is hard to see because of the limited pixel space. Almost looks like more of a conventional ear. You'll notice I play footage from my Badnik handheld with graphics smoothing on, and I think it helps make the intent of the design come through better. At this point, the gameplay is largely the same as 7 years after its first appearance. But in the same year, there was a shakeup to this line of monkeys. At the turn of the millennium, it was time to go all in on 3D. The Japanese version actually released in 1998, but it came to North America almost a year later. I remember as a kid being floored by seeing advertisements featuring the orca chasing Sonic around Emerald Coast. We rented the entire Dreamcast console along with the game from Hollywood Video, Didn't have a memory card, so I just played the beginning of the game over and over as a kid. This meant that I went face to face with a lot of Kiki. That's right, we're talking about Kiki now, not Coconut. But as I mentioned, I see it as a spiritual successor to Coconuts, and worthy of putting them in the same video together. This time around, they attack both from the ground and trees. The player initially encounters them throwing bombs, but later on they can also be found throwing spike balls. The bombs can be picked up by Sonic and thrown back at Kiki, but the spike balls can't as they explode on contact with the ground. When a Kiki hits the player, they do a funny little celebration. One of my favorite places to find Kiki was in the bathroom stalls of Hot Shelter, where they throw bombs at Gamma over the doors. Looking closely at the 3D model, you can see the detail is pretty rudimentary, much like many other 3D games of the time. I feel like the texture is done pretty effectively. Look how small the eye image is, and it's reused for both sides. This is the actual size in pixels, though. The design is notably different, especially around the sides of the head, now actually having ears instead of the bolt. It also has no tail in this first iteration, though it does gain one in Sonic Adventure 2. It serves as a simple but dynamic enemy to fight. I think it's a charming addition to the cast of Badniks in this early 3D outing of Sonic games. But that's not all from Sonic Adventure. There's a variant of the Kiki in Twinkle Park known as the Cart Kiki. They drive around in bumper cars and try to ram the player. When defeated, their carts can be taken over, and this is actually what initiates the next section of the game. A cart ride through a space-themed area, where the player encounters a few more of these guys. I think this would be a fun custom to make as well, and have it so that Sonic can fit inside of the toy, similar to what I'm doing with Tails and the Cyclone. That's still not all from Sonic Adventure. On the stage Speed Highway, Cop Speeder can be encountered by Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. They're pretty chaotic and will pursue the player with loud sirens and flashing lights. They can be a bit of a challenge to hit at times, as they can end up a bit higher than the player. Their model is pretty rudimentary, being just a head with a visor and some flat hands. While in motion though, they do the trick at representing a Kiki in a vehicle. A lot of these lower polygon models have a lot in common, that it's really about the context of the scene that they're in that makes them successful as a character in the game. And I think they do fine enough at this stage. A fan favorite for many, Sonic Adventure 2 brought back Kiki with a major upgrade. This time, it has a tail! They mostly have the same gameplay style as in Sonic Adventure, but there are some that just don't throw bombs at all. They just spin around in circles. There isn't much reason to really fight them at all. Just leave them be. But then again, Chow are a really good reason. The Game Boy Advance handheld Sonic Advance brings the gameplay back to its 2D roots, but this time is actually the first 2D appearance of Kiki. They behave much the same way as Coconuts in the older games, but their design captures the Kiki design of the Adventure series quite well. Even on the small screen, you can make out their big oval eyes, circular ears, and metal hands. The pixel art also does an excellent job of giving a metallic sheen to the orange parts of the head and also the tail. I always appreciate the artistic skill needed to render that kind of effect using only a small number of pixels. The GBA sequel to Sonic Advance brings Kiki into the game once again. Comparing the two, you can see they look mostly the same as their predecessor, but the sequel adds some angry-looking eyelids to the design. They definitely look more sinister in this version. They're still pretty easy to defeat, however, as the general gameplay stays the same as to what we've seen from most of the other 2D versions. But that's not all from Sonic Advance 2. While gathering footage for this video, I came across what looked to be a vaguely Kiki-like badnik just hanging out on the ground. I didn't remember this from my original playthroughs when I was 13, and I played Advance 2 a lot. But to be fair, it was mostly the Chow Garden I was playing. Anyway, at first I thought it might be a new take on coconuts, but when I looked it up, it was actually an entirely different badnik called a mon. I had no idea there was yet another monkey-type badnik, and interestingly, its only appearance is here in Sonic Advance 2. I'm going to skip over 2003's Sonic Pinball Party to quickly talk about this guy. Fresh off of finding a new badnik in Advance 2, I was surprised to once again find a new variant. This one is called an ape. Very clever name, by the way. Similar to Mon, it only appears in this game. And to me, they look so alike that they could have been both Kiki or Mon, just with an updated design. But nope, this is an entirely new one as well. It behaves similarly to Kiki and Coconuts in that it hangs from trees and throws bombs, but instead it uses its tail to climb. It has a cool effect on the GBA where the sphere sprites that make up the tail seem to stretch in a satisfying way as it swings. They throw bombs more quickly than their predecessors, and I find them just a little bit harder to take down. Rolling back to 2003 from that Sonic Advance detour, we have Kiki in Sonic Pinball Party. I think the design here is pretty funny. It goes a little off-model with the eyes being fully circular, but I like the creative concessions they made to ensure that it read as shocked or scared. There's a lot of personality just in this one sprite. Kiki has only a small appearance in the Neo Green Hill Zone pinball board. When launching the ball into the big target hole, a Kiki will pop out from the palm trees. The Kiki presence in all of the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic games is lacking. Most of the appearances amount to not much more than a cameo. The Wii version of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games has two minigames that feature Kiki. The first is Count Master, and it's similar to the roll call minigame from Mario Party 2. You simply count how many Kiki or Goomba you see in a certain amount of time. The challenge is supposed to come from the fact that they all walk around and through each other. There really is no challenge at all. Most of them can be counted early during the game's start screen. The second minigame is called Whack-A-Mole, and it's the more difficult of the two. The Kiki pop up pretty quickly, and it can be hard to maneuver the hammer and swing it down at the right time. The DS version of the game does even less with Kiki. In this version, they look pretty much like renders based on the Adventure 2 style without much in the way of design changes. Looking at the very low polygon model, it looks fairly similar to their Sonic Adventure 2 versions. You'll notice the textures are done similarly in the way small images come together in multiple places on the model. Their usage is very simple, being used only in two minigames once again. The first is the Dream Shooting event. Very basic sprites jump onto the screen for the player to shoot at. They're barely visible behind everything else that's happening on screen. They get a little bit more of the spotlight in the Conveyor Belt minigame, where they appear as one of two options for sorting. I found this to actually be really difficult, but probably because I wasn't on the original hardware. Are you sick of hearing about the Olympic Games series yet? Because I'm sick of talking about them. Next up is the Winter Games in Vancouver in 2010. This is a quick one because, to my knowledge, Kiki only shows up in one section of one minigame. In the Dream Alpine event, they stand around in the middle of a cave throwing bombs at the competitors. It was tough to get footage of these guys because the gameplay wants to keep the players skiing past. From what I can see, we're not missing much. They look pretty standard across all of the Mario and Sonic Olympic Games series. I think the DS version of the game uses Kiki in a slightly more interesting way. It's once again in 2 events. In Ultimate Figure Skating, they appear during one of the subsections of the event, where the skater must hit them all with the DS stylus. This section goes pretty fast and is a bit boring. It's the other event that I had more fun with. The Chase Off Kiki event in the Adventure Tours mode is a minigame limited to Daisy. She has to defend a flower garden from Kiki, who are presumably causing some sort of anti-garden mischief. But a Chow seems to be doing the exact same sort of mischief, popping up and doing cute things. But in this scenario, Daisy just hates Kiki. For such a simple game, it was actually kind of fun to anticipate when Kiki would pop up. Thankfully, we are at the end of the 5 Olympic Games appearances. And this one is actually the most interesting. Technically, Sonic Generations beats this release date by just a couple of weeks in North America, but I want to keep it tidy with the others in the series. The most notable change here is the new design from Sonic Generations. Here, Kiki are given more rounded, robotic eyes that seem to glow with a ring of blue light. They have some nice panel detail and are overall an upgrade from previous versions, both in design and also with rendering with more modern tech. Personally though, I like the old eyes better. In the Kiki custom I made, I took a lot of inspiration from the most modern Sonic model, this one, but I kept the eyes from the old design. In Vacant Lot Kiki Hunt, 4 players try to chase down Kiki who are running wild through the streets of London. Again, we don't see them doing anything particularly bad, but they must be dealt with. The players can boost toward the Kiki to catch them, but that boost is in an uncontrollable straight line, so it adds some challenge to make sure that the shot is lined up correctly. Interestingly, even though there was both a Wii U and 3DS version of Sonic Generations, Kiki only appear in the 3DS version. As you can see in the model for this, it's very low polygon, just like the DS and old Dreamcast versions of Kiki, but with the new style textures to match the 2011 design. Their gameplay is very similar to Sonic Adventure, throwing bombs from up in trees and also from down on the ground. Of course, in this stage, it's all in 2D, so it also feels similar to the original Genesis games. Kiki does, however, make an appearance in the Wii U version of the game in the form of a cop speeder. These have a lot more detail this time around compared to their last appearance in Sonic Adventure. They're just as annoying, though. Something about their animation, or maybe the physics as they fly around, is really appealing, and it takes some work to make sure that they can't hit you, especially when there are a half dozen or more on the screen at a time. I love this upgraded speed highway, and it feels really epic as they fly along with Sonic as he runs down the building. It's been a while in this video since I've talked about Coconuts, and it's unfortunate that a game I dislike as much as Lost World has to be their first return in a number of years. I actually like the look of Coconuts in this version of the game. I feel like the look of the eyes and mouth capture the design of the original and bring it into 3D really well. The round bolt on the side of their heads is a nice touch, though I always picture them as flathead screws. I do not like Lost World though. It just feels so slow and clunky, and destroying Badniks doesn't have the same satisfaction as many previous games. Sometime after my playthrough for recording, I learned that the bombs could be picked up and thrown back, just like in Sonic Adventure. But I had such a bad time in this game, I didn't even care to come back and record that. You get the picture. I love the idea of what Lost World could have been with its Mario Galaxy style design, but what we got was just not the potential that the idea had. Gosh, was recording this worth it? It took me 4 hours to get set up with LEGO Dimensions with the Sonic the Hedgehog DLC. The base game, issue with the updates and the DLC, getting Sonic to appear, all just for a few seconds in this video. This isn't even a real canon appearance, but I wanted to include it. So if you appreciate the effort, please like and subscribe. Coconut shows up in the opening stages in LEGO form, along with a lot of other creative redesigns of Badniks. While other Badniks in this game do some interesting things in 3D like Crab Meat and Chopper, Coconut does mostly the same thing it's always done. Really, the only notable things about this are its new looks in the LEGO universe. Honestly, I did not like playing this game at all for this video. The controls are clunky and lacks the polished fun of not only a Sonic game, but other LEGO games that I've played. It was a real chore to get through the unskippable cutscenes and opening level of tutorial gameplay just to be able to do Sonic stuff. A few features like force-specific powers and requiring movement on the platform for some mechanics seemed that was just all the low points of a Toys to Life game combined. Coconut, Kiki, Mon, Ape, Kart Kiki, and Cop Speeder disappear for about a decade until this last year's 2024 release of Sonic X Shadow Generations. The Cop Speeders appear again in the Sonic Generations portion. Not much of the design has changed. It's actually a bit difficult for me to tell if the model really has been updated much in between the two games, or if it's simply a matter of being rendered in a more advanced engine. In fact, I think the engines may be the same, just higher specs. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about that. I felt like this whole year was leading up to this game as well as the third movie, so I'm glad it gets the final entry in this video. And that's a wrap on the evolution of Coconuts, Kiki, Mon, and the other monkey Badniks from Sonic the Hedgehog. From their 16-bit beginnings on the Genesis to their latest appearances, it's been fun to research how these mischievous monkeys have adapted and changed over the years. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to check out my custom Kiki figure video, where I combined elements from all these designs into one collectible piece. And as always, if you appreciate the effort it takes to dig up this footage, analyze these details, and create these videos, a like and a subscribe go a long way in helping me make more content like this. Which version of Coconuts or Kiki is your favorite? Do you prefer their classic pixel art designs or the 3D transformations? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And definitely let me know if you'd like me to do this for other Badniks as well. Thanks for watching.